Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about something that's been in the news lately. Just last Thursday, I believe it was, the BEA, or in other words, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, came out with their GDP report. Now, GDP is gross domestic product. And GDP is a way we measure economic activity in a country. In other words, it measures how well the economy is doing in terms of output. So it's very limited in terms of what it measures. It's only measuring one dynamic or one aspect of the economy, output. There are other ways of measuring how well the economy is doing other than output. So GDP is not perfect, it's limited, but it's something that we use as a yardstick as to how the economy is doing. And what was interesting is the numbers that we came out with. We came out with some really big numbers. Now, GDP is reported in quarters. So for 2020, we have Q1, that's going to be from January, February, March. Q2, that's April, May, June. And then Q3, which is July, August, and September. So we just finished Q3. Now, there's a number of ways of measuring GDP, and it's usually measured in percent changes. Now, what you could do is you could measure the change from one quarter to next quarter and report that as a percent change. One of the difficulties or one of the problems with reporting GDP as a percent change for one quarter is we usually put GDP in annual terms. It's almost like a runner who runs a 100-meter dash. What if you, instead of going from point A to point B, which is 100 meters, what if the runner just runs 10 meters from here to here? And you could clock how fast that runner is going. Now, you don't know if this is going to be a very record-breaking time because you're not used to measuring a runner going only 10 meters. You're used to measuring a runner going 100 meters. So what you could do is you could measure or clock the rate of speed from 0 to 10 meters and then extrapolate what if that runner continued at that pace another 90 meters. In other words, what if he continued his 10-meter pace for the entire 100-meter race? What would be that time? Now, if this runner started out sprinting very fast, now, let me back up. A very fast time is, let's say, 9.5 seconds, 100-meter dash. That's Olympic speed. What if you measure the change or the rate of speed from 0 to 10 meters, and then the runner we say the runner continued that rate for 100 meters, and that runner will finish at a record 7.2 seconds if he continued along this pace. Now, what you could say is this speed is not sustainable. In other words, there's really no way for this runner to continue at the rate he started at for the entire race because this is physically impossible for a human to run a 100-meter dash at 7.2 seconds. So one of the benefits of extending that rate for the entire race is to see, is this pace set from 0 to 10, is it sustainable or not? And we do the same thing with GDP. We could say, what is the rate of change from Q1 to Q2? And let's say the rate of change is only 0.7%, a little bit under a tenth of a percent. Now, what we could say is, well, what if this continues for 4 quarters, an entire year? And we call this annualizing this rate of change. And if we continue to grow at this rate for 4 quarters, let's say the economy will grow at, 5.2%. annual growth. Now, what we can do is we could put this number in the same context as we did this number. The long-term growth for the United States is roughly 2.5%. In other words, the United States cannot physically grow much faster than 2.5% for any sustained period of time. And this is the long-term trend. So you could see that this number is well above the long-term trend. So you can make a case that the rate of growth from Q1 to Q2 is not really sustainable. It will slow down because when we annualize this rate, we get this big number, and this is what is typical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the board. Okay, I've got a clean board. Let's go back. So we got Q1, Q2, Q3. Now, I'm going off the top of my head. The economy contracted about 5% from quarter to quarter annualized in Q1. And it decreased 32% approximately. And then we got a whopping increase of about 31% in Q3. Now, keep in mind, these are annualized rates because the actual growth from Q1 to Q2 was only 7.4%. But what we did was, what if this rate of change continued for 4 quarters and it would grow at 31%? So you can see the economy really didn't grow at 31%. It grew at, this was from, let me erase that. This was from Q2 to Q3, 7.4%. And that's how much it actually grew. But if we annualize this, it grew at 31%. Now, you could say that this is way fast, and it's not sustainable because it's well beyond the 2.5% long-term average. But you have to understand, we are coming from a huge drop. And again, this was also annualized. So this is one of the reasons why this was controversy. Did the economy really grow at this rate? Well, technically, no. It grew at 7.4% from this quarter to this quarter. But if you extrapolate this for 4 quarters, it will grow 31% over a year if it continued at this pace. So hopefully this puts things in a little perspective, how these quarterly numbers, we've got the quarterly percent change, and we got quarterly percent change annualized. We also have year over year percent change. Now, year over year percent change looks at the level of Q1 from 1 year and looks at the level Q1 at another year. So it takes 4 quarters of change and figures out the percent change. So these are 3 common ways of measuring changes in GDP.